Welcome to the Exergaming Files. My name is Brett Young.
My name is Richard Coshott. Together we represent the cutting edge of a global phenomenon.
I'm an Aussie, he's a POM, and we're going to talk to you about the wonderful world of Exergaming.
We have a packed agenda this week. It seems to make sense to have an introductory topic of what is Exergaming. If you happen to have been trying to find the latest Justin Bieber single and accidentally opened this podcast, then let's get in there and start the education and the advocacy right now. So I'll start with the question, what is Exergaming?
Good question.
Exergaming, I think, is defined by its functions, what it does. The first function is obviously a fitness component, and the second function is slightly more controversial. It's fun, which is seen as video gaming in my mind. How do you see that?
May I interrupt?
Yeah,
Richard.
Indeed.
Our 10 Wiki PB Works Wiki website, which we'll have details on at the end of the podcast, gives a very good definition of what Exergaming is exactly, and it is evolving, but it does need those two essential components, fitness and some type of gaming aspect, which is often video gaming or screen oriented. But it doesn't have to be. It can be driven by audio or whatever. So the 10 Wiki website does have a very good definition of it, amongst other things. But it is an evolving definition and somewhat placed with active gaming, although I think there personally is a great distinction between active gaming and exergaming. But you often hear the two used together.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say there's a difference, because I don't actually see that much of a difference. However, I mean, this could be from my own background with Exergaming, is stepping deeper than the function of Exergaming is what is the reason for Exergaming. As I see the reason, sedentary screen time playing video games is having a negative effect on health populations, and turning that sedentary screen time into active screen time with Exergaming or active gaming is my view of why we're all here.
And Richard, can I get you to say sedentary again?
Sedentary.
Right. For all those listeners outside of the UK, yeah, it's sedentary. And I forgot what you said. I think you said sedentary?
Oh, no.
I think you might have done anyway. It's just an English thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there we go. We just want to correct that for those people that have cotton ears. So, or cotton in their ears. But the other thing, we're coming back to what is Exergaming, and that fusion of gaming technologies and gaming methodology, along with fitness methodologies or exercise methodologies. To me, that's a crucial difference between what active gaming is. If you take that fusion of words together, that compound word, active gaming. Active to me just means nondescript physical movement for the sake of it. There is no planning involved in that, hence the word active, movement. Whereas exercise, by its very definition, means planned. Exercise is a planned activity. So that means it has rules, it may have a process, etc., etc. Now, I'm going by the very definitions of the word. So to me, exergaming is something constructed, planned, with rules, with challenges, with results, with rewards. Active gaming to me is simply the act of movement, however it's driven. And there are examples of active games, and there are very specific examples, and there are examples of exergames. And you can see, if I gave an example of either one, you could quickly tell the difference between the two. They both achieve the same thing, but they are very different in how they're constructed.
Yeah, I mean, personally, you've not convinced me one bit that they're anything different.
Would you like an example?
Well, you can try. Go ahead.
All right. This might help people who are listening to understand. There's a company called Gamersize. You might have heard them, Rich.
Yeah, I've heard of them, yeah.
I've heard good things about them.
Good
and yeah, they make a stepper.
Yes, indeed.
Amongst other things, they make a stepper. And this stepper basically is the interface to the physical part of the exercise part and the gaming part. So that interface, if it's working correctly and the person is moving, will basically allow the game to operate, or the exergaming components to operate. So the exercise plus the game work together. If you stop stepping or slow down at a certain point, as I understand it, I don't know why I'm describing this for you, the game will pause. So the actual interface is active in that all you need to do is step, and you need to step at a certain rate. Right?
Yeah.
That's what that hardware requires you to do. The interface then off to the software is driven by the software. And it may be a game, a first-person shooter, it may be a sports game, whatever. But that's already been scripted.
Yeah.
That's an existing bit of software. So your interface requires the person to move. Another example might be something like, should I even mention it? A dance game.
Oh, can you be more specific?
With a dance game, the entire game itself, the interface, the hardware, the software is the Exergame. It doesn't use external software. So the software was built into the game itself.
Right.
It is the game.
Okay.
So the interface between all of that is the actual game. So it can't, in this particular case, use external software. You could load other versions of it on, other software like music or so forth, but that is the Exergame. So that's kind of the difference to me. And
Okay.
What the first one does is allow, we could argue about the pros and cons, it allows more flexibility because you can use existing software regardless of what it is. The alternative one, the second version I talked about, the software is proprietary and you would have to go through that company again to get updates and so forth. So they have their pros and cons.
Right. So you're saying that Exergaming is the end-to-end, whereas active gaming is the converse of lazy gaming.
I think in the case of the gamer side is more the gaming side.
Yes.
I think in the Exergaming side, it's more the exercise side.
One thing that is particularly useful about Exergaming is a term that cannot be confused with anything else. I don't know if you search on Google for Exergaming, chances are you're going to get back pretty much what you expect. If you search for active gaming, then a lot of the times you don't get back what you expect. Because it's two words, the words are in common use. It doesn't have its own identity.
Oh, and we put a lot of thought into it too, to choose the name. And at Exergaming Australia, we could have been Active Gaming Australia. Mm-hmm. But down here we have a lot of references when we do a Google search through google.com.au, and you will get almost exclusively gambling. So it can be confused by the layman who hasn't got a clue what it is. If they do a Google search, they're often going to turn up results from gambling, which is not exactly what we want.
No, absolutely. I think we've successfully failed to answer the question completely, what is Exergaming, and diverted off into what is active gaming. So probably the best piece of advice is what you came up with initially, which is if you want to know what Exergaming is, go on the wiki and look it up. Somebody brighter than us has written it down for you.
Actually, I think I wrote it, Rich.
I think you edited it, Brett.
Yeah. I won't take full credit for it.
Also, when you go onto the wiki, you will find all the various projects that TEN has attempted to achieved, and is achieving. Which moves us neatly on to our next topic for this podcast, which is the rant of the week. I think that's a subject that's pretty close to Brett and my hearts here, because we're on the cutting edge, the coal face of Exergaming. We don't have that much to do with research. However, it does affect the attitudes of the people that we meet on a daily basis. So, Brett, what's got your goat this week?
Rant of the week. Well, look, we're frustrated by where the research is going. Now, a lot of the research, quite rightly, started at the beginning using premises to how much exercise does an Exergame create? How much can we get out of it? After 400 million episodes of research into that area, we can pretty much say that it has light, moderate, vigorous levels of activity. Now, I know the research is needed. And I'm going to prove to be a bit of a Philistine here, or Philistine, depends which place you come from, in that the research needs to be done to conclusively, empirically prove that this is the case. But we all pretty much know if we're sitting down watching something, we're not probably burning too much energy. So if we're probably running around the block quite fast, we're probably burning more. And so a lot of the research in the past has gone, well, if you're up and moving around, is that going to burn more energy than sitting down doing nothing? it does actually burn more energy if you get up and run around.
Crikey.
I know. It's a revelation.
Well,
And
that's good stuff. Okay, so...
That's empirically proven. But we've gone beyond it now, Rich. But you would be surprised, absolutely surprised, how much more research is coming out regurgitating, does exergaming produce an exercise component?
Yeah, I must admit, it's getting pretty boring, isn't it? It's fairly old.
This is it. This is my rant. It's done. Can we put it to bed?
Yeah,
right?
move on.
It does. Now, look, if you get someone waving their arms around, jumping up and down, they're probably going to burn some energy. Now, how much energy they burn, that's the tricky bit, because a lot of the research going into it is clinically done, which it has to be. Of course, we need empirical proof here. And we're sort of investigating domestic off-the-shelf products like the Nintendo Wii or the Kinect or whatever, whack it in front of a couple of people in a clinical studio, in a setting, or even at home, and using the game itself, its own motivations, and asking people how much energy is that going to produce. For an hour, how much energy they're going to burn, how many calories they're going to knock off.
Yeah.
Right? And then from that, they make these grandiose claims that exergaming is either crap because it burned bugger all, or wow, I can't believe it, it got to vigorous levels. Shock horror. Go figure. But what my argument is, Rich, give a child, let's take it to their home, let's do a study on exercise. Let's give them two options. Let's give them an exergame, whatever it might be, a Nintendo Wii, or let's give them a Kinect, whatever, who cares. Let's give them a round-shaped, inflatable, leathery thing, and let's call it a soccer ball, right?
Let's call it a football.
Let's call it a football. Let's call it a sporting, let's call it a footballing event thing.
Okay.
Right, apparatus. And so the child can have a choice. It can play either one. Now, I haven't read a lot of research into a child performing a solo activity with a round inflatable leathery thing, and to see if that produces MVPA, moderate to vigorous physical activity. So perhaps someone out there can enlighten me and produce the research, but has research been done on a child with a ball placed in front of them and say, there you go, mate, knock yourself out?
I don't think so.
See what you can do with that. And the common condition for that, where that might be used, is a parent might say to their child, Johnny, because all the children are named Johnny, take the ball out
Even
the back. Even the girls. And run around the backyard and kick the damn ball around until you can't stand up anymore, right? So that might be the scenario, but I think most often than not, the ball is outside. The parent pushes the kid outside. Go outside and play. Right? And let's see what happens.
Get out of my way.
Now let's see. And let's see what MVPA is producing that. My point here is that if you give a activity for a child or an adult to do without direction, and with just basic premise of saying, leave it in front of them and see what they do with it, what happens? So there's no coaching, there's no instruction, there's basically the premise that is the product or the worth of the product in itself just what it can do without any guidance. So is that exergame going to make that child produce moderate to vigorous levels of activity if it's left to its own devices just to sit in front of it and do what it wants? With a soccer ball, will it produce MVPA if the child decides to get up, kick it around the backyard, or not, or sit on top of it for the duration of 1 hour? So the product or the apparatus or the fitness activity itself is not going to produce the activity. What will produce that is a motivation and some reasoning. Now, an exergame is probably going to have, not surprisingly, more opportunity for that child to do something because it's a game, and the game has its own rules. It will have its rewards, its challenges, and as a child goes through the different levels, it'll take it through on a journey. And if that journey requires the child to move, then it will have to move. With the ball, the child will go outside, kick the ball around. It will decide what kind of activity it wants to do. Will it kick the ball off the fence and rebound it? Will it just kick it from one side, walk after it, and pick it up? There is no structure. You could call it an active game. So from that point on, what creates a structure with that? So the exergame has structure. It has a capacity in itself with its own feedback system to generate activity and sustain some level of activity. But that's not all exergames. That's just the ones we're talking about, the off-the-shelf ones. So in the clinical settings, it's suggesting that Will that be enough to produce MVPA? What I'm saying is it will be if you make it. So if you want a child to work at vigorous levels, make it work at vigorous levels.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see where you're coming from with this.
Can you? I'm not sure I described that well. Do you want to go into
yes,
it?
yes. You're right. I mean, the Exergaming is a tool, and I recently likened it to putting a nail in a wall. And in order to do that, you need a tool. If you've never put a nail in a wall, you probably need some direction as well. But if you're trying to put a nail in the wall with a hammer, with somebody telling you where the nail needs to go without going through electrical cable or water pipe, chances are you're going to be fairly successful with it. If somebody just leaves a nail on the side and says put that in the wall and gives you a hacksaw, chances are it's not going to do very well. So the whole application and tool thing is you put it in a clinical environment and you test it in that fashion, and it doesn't actually mean anything. X Games only mean something when people are using them, and how they use them is largely that's up to themselves, but equally there are other influences that will offer direction. I'm talking mainly in the home here. There's other influences, but whether or not it's MVPA or not, my argument actually goes a little bit further than yours. And yes, it does matter what the application is, but more so, it matters what the sustainability is. And I haven't seen any studies that have looked at that.
But Richard, we're entering dangerous territory now. We're going into the Richard rant.
Oh, well, we are.
We're going to have to leave that to next week. That's going to be Richard's rant, sustainability. But you can't steal my thunder on this one, Rich. This is my baby. This is the MVPA. This is like the vigorous levels. And I'm looking at studies done by pediatrics released and published in Pediatrics Journal, Obesity Journal, International Journal for Behavior and Nutrition and Physical Activity, Research Quarterly for Exercise and Sport, the ACE publications, etc. Any number of them that I could rant off about. There are literally dozens I can show you where MVPA is produced, but not at sufficient levels to satisfy the American Council of Exercise, etc. And I'm like, but if those levels were reached, even at one point in the study, that means those levels can be reached at any point in the duration of that game. It's how you sustain that. It's what you do to make or to create that area where they can enjoy vigorous levels or moderate levels more frequently. And how you do that isn't always just dependent on the game. It's how peers interact with them. Yes. Do you make that game more cooperative? Do you make it competitive? So the game in isolation or the Exergame in isolation will probably always produce subpar results, as would a football sitting in the middle of a lawn in the backyard with a child is staring at it, wondering what to do with it. Unless there is a structure, there will be no MVPA at a sustained level that makes any difference to anyone. So that's not a fault of an Exergame, that's a fault of any activity that isn't structured to create. Now the question should be, and the research should be, can Exergames produce moderate, vigorous levels of activity? Yes, they can, and yes, they have. So the question, and what the researchers should be doing from this point on, is how do we sustain those levels? And there's lots of ways we can do that, and we do it in our job every day.
Well, we do, and we can speak for both of us here, is we would not be in the Exergaming business for however many years we have been. I mean, for as long as we have, doing what we do, and still being able to buy food if we didn't know this.
Oh, I don't buy food anymore, Richard. I gave up on that.
You're just buying lager now, isn't it? That's the honest truth.
Just draft. But, well, that was my rant, Richard. I don't want to go on about it because the rant has to be short and sweet and to the point, and I feel very passionate about that researchers need to lift their asses out of the gutter and stop testing, can Exergames produce an exertion result which produce? Yes, it can, right? It can, it has, it will, it always will, it always would.
I'm just wondering if that statement there is actually citable. So future studies can just refer to Brett Young in the Exergaming podcast,
and you can quote me on that.
Exactly, that's what we.
I think we should move along and get on to something less ranty.
I think I need Exergamings Joke of the Day.
You need an intro for that one, don't
Yeah,
worry.
I do. I mean, we'll see if we.
I think you need
find
Benny
one.
Hill for that one. I think you need a Benny Hill intro for that
Well,
one.
we could do that.
That'd be awesome.
Well, okay, we will see if we can find one. If we can't, that'll have to do. So, Exergamings Joke of the Day, Tom Brownowski.
It's funny, isn't it?
It is quite funny, actually.
You might need to explain it though, Rich.
No, I think it's probably best if I don't. That's the humour. That's British humour.
That's cruel.
Do we need Australian humour next week?
No, it's fair but cruel.
Yeah, okay, right.
Yeah, I don't mind cruel.
And I'll just qualify that by saying this is a joke that's funny to people in Exergaming. And that's all I have to say.
It's an in-joke.
It's an in-joke.
If you don't know why, Richard can be contacted on several phone numbers that I'll include at the end of the podcast. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if you're listening, Tom, I think you're great.
Okay, now let's move on to something that we're always asked about, which is what do you think about, or as we've labelled this section, the Exergaming Cool Wall.
Because we couldn't think of anything better. So it's the cool wall.
The Cool Wall. Yeah. And this is actually a page on the Exergaming wiki, exergaming.pbworks.com. Go check it out. And although we're very tight at 10, I mean, we don't like spending money, so we haven't exactly spent the money to get security permissions so that only Brett and I can alter this page. Anybody can alter this page, but chances are we'll probably spot it and correct it. So this is a cool wall that has all the potential to be vandalised. And we actively encourage that. And
I think we've basically ripped off Top Gear with this one.
Essentially, yes. Basically.
So it basically, instead of just whacking up cars, and feel free to do that as well, we're going to whack up uncool things and cool things about Exergaming.
Absolutely. Now we've already had some written on the cool wall. I mean, the whole purpose of this is to give you, the listening public, an opinion preformed, so you don't have to bother thinking about something. You can just look at the cool wall and go, "Oh yeah, that's pretty cool," or "No, that's seriously uncool." You don't have to put any effort into thinking about it. I mean, I think this is a genius idea. I really do.
In all modesty, and. Whose idea was it? Was it your idea?
Well, yes, actually.
So, yeah, it would be a cool idea then, wouldn't it, Rich? So I think it's a great idea. And it's kind of a quick reference to many things we'll talk about with rants and so forth will be represented on the cool wall because it's a good, quick visual check of what we think is hot and what is not. Keep checking on it. Come into the PB Wiki Works. Whack something up there yourself. Write a comment. There's a comment section below it. We want to make that successful as well so people can write whatever they feel. If it gets a little bit carried away, then we'll just edit it. But otherwise, feel free to put whatever you think is hot or not there.
What we have on the cool wall right now is 4 categories. And for those of you listening in black and white, they have different colours. Seriously uncool on the left. Then we have just marginally uncool. And then we move into stuff that's cool and stuff that's super cool. And under super cool, we have the X Game Network. Oh, what did you put that there?
How'd that get there?
I don't know. And then seriously uncool, we have We Research Studies. I think I kind of agree with that. And regurgitated headlined articles. Brett, I think you were drunk editing there, weren't you?
Oh no, I wasn't, Rich. It was regurgitated. No, I think that pretty much sums it up. That's about how I feel about it.
Yeah,
we don't need to go. That's another rant.
That's another rant. We can leave that. So we have 2 subjects that have been suggested for putting on the cool wall by members of the network, and the first of them is Zombie Run. Have you heard of Zombie Run?
I think I have, Rich. It's I have. It's an outstanding. We're talking about the game here. We're talking about the app.
Rather than the actuality of running away from zombies, we're talking about the game itself this time.
I do like my zombies, and if you can put them in an app, I believe it's available for iPhone, iPad. I'm not sure about Android yet.
Oh, see, that's going to take it down a bit or two, isn't it?
What might do. Actually, as you're talking, Rich, I'll actually do a Google search and see if it is available as, because it might go from super cool to just cool.
Yeah, I mean, just cool if it's not available for Android, because if it's an Apple product, zombies are not vegetarians.
It is available. It is available. It goes straight to the top.
Oh, fantastic! Zombie
Now,
Rant.
wait 1 second. Wait 1 second.
Yes.
I did follow the development on Kickstarter, I think it was, actually, for Zombies Run. Now, it's a full release product. I know that they did want to introduce multiplayer. And if I can have a moment, the multiplayer side of it was that you set up your scenario with your iPhone or iPad and go out into the Great Unwashed and run around the block and the suburbs. But you could actually set up your home base with friends and create multiplayer events with your friends. Now, as you know, I'm a big fan of multiplayer in Exergaming. The more people sharing activity, the better. So the initial zombie run was just you on your own phone doing your own scenario. But with the multiplayer, you can involve, I don't know how many friends it allowed or will allow, but that makes it a whole different experience. So if they have instituted the multiplayer aspect, that takes it to a new level as far as I'm concerned. That takes it off the shop.
Yeah, so it's got to be fun. More fun than running around on your own going, there's a zombie. And,
yes.
and nobody else is partaking in that particular fantasy. It might make for you looking quite odd. But if there's a group of you going, oh my God, run it zombies, you might actually get some participation from people that don't have the app.
Look, if people haven't heard of it, and there's probably quite a few that haven't, you must get it. It's called Zombies Run. Go to...
Can we put the link up? Is that allowed within the 10 rules of being unbiased? And is that possible?
We can do whatever the blazes we like, actually, Rich. I think we
okay, we'll put the link up to that, and I think Zombies goes into super cool.
I think it does, and go and check it out. I'll put the link into the PB Wiki. I'm doing that as we talk.
Excellent.
It is an outstanding game.
And of course, it is compatible with your favourite social media sites, so you can declare to the world how many zombie hordes you've outrun today. And I haven't actually seen anybody posting that they got caught by a zombie horde and subsequently, whatever happens when you get caught by a zombie horde. I've seen lots of people outrunning them, which is generally a good thing. And when it all does go to shit, then we're going to have a lot of people who are ready for the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah,
which has got to be a good.
It's a training simulator.
Yeah,
big event.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if this is a segue or not, but from zombies to games for health. Which is the next subject that has been suggested. It's been suggested by a commenter on the PB Wiki site itself. X-Game Fitness said, games for health. So, Brett, where do we put games for health on the Exergaming cool wall?
Oh,
cool,
Rich.
or are they not cool?
Oh, gee.
Right, now, first of all, I think we need to qualify this. Games for health, all in capitals, which doesn't mean the genre of games that are for health. This means the organisation run by Digital Mill, Games for Health. And I want to further qualify that and say that I can't see the word Europe after it. So this is talking about Games for Health in America.
Well, I'm going to bite the bullet, Rich, and I'm going to say it's seriously uncool.
Seriously? And why do you say
that? Do we have time? Or is this a rant again?
If we're going to put something on the wall, we need to have a convincing and compelling argument as to why we've done it.
Well, we have to remember
we don't really, but I'm kind of pointing us in that direction.
This is just our subjective opinion on the thing. And I like results. I like to see that Exergaming is moving ahead. I like to think that Exergaming in the field of games for health, and actually it's the umbrella of games for health and Exergaming is serious games, actually. So I like to see this whole genre move ahead. And the breadbasket, what actually the engine room of serious games and games for health is Exergaming. Without Exergaming, they wouldn't exist. Well, actually, they would exist, but they'd be back on LinkedIn in a very small group, talking amongst the 3 or 4 of them again. So whether they like it or not, I'm going into the they thing now.
Well, yeah, look, I'm going to curve you slightly here, and
Only slightly, though.
Games for Health Boston has a dedicated Exergame track. They have an Exergame room or tent or dungeon or whatever you want to call it. So there's quite a bit of Exergaming going on in Games for Health.
Yeah, I agree. I think from my point of view is it is the engine room. There was a market report released 2008, 2009, eHealth market report. If I can dig that up, but I'm not going to. I can get access should I need, and someone might want proof of it. It was
that falls into the list of regurgitated research material, I think.
No, it's just me being unprepared, Richard. Really, that's all it is.
No, we've used that report plenty of times.
We have, and that report from 2008, 2009 was a worldwide generation in the games for health genre, or health e-games genre, as they call it, which I kind of like, kind of tricky. $6.8 billion generated worldwide. That's a lot.
Yeah.
You know, that buys a lot of Cascade draft beer. And it's good beer, but that's a lot of beer. And 6.6 billion of that was generated in the, guess what, Rich? Which SIG or special interest group of that category?
May it be Exergaming?
Oh, you're right. Yeah, correct.
Excellent.
Generated from Exergaming.
Yes.
And so when we see conferences set up in the games or health e-games genre, which aspect of that do we think, or genre of that do we think should be pushing the trail forward? I think it might be Exergaming. Is that often the case? No.
No. To be fair, what you get out of the games for health space is it's not on the same level as $6.6 billion.
No, and credit due. Lots of work is happening in this area, and lots of things are coming together. But it is a lot of talk, a lot of hoopla. Exergaming is ready to be delivered. It's ready to be implemented. It's ready to be produced en masse, delivered to the public now. Has been for a long time.
Yes.
So we need to get it out there.
and giving people the opportunity to talk about a study that they haven't even written up that just involves energy expenditure. It's not that cool. But I wouldn't say Games for Health is seriously uncool. I think it's just a little bit uncool. And I think it's going to be a lot more cool when we don't see the same old faces year after year. When we can get some students there, because let's face it, the crowd that goes to Games for Health, they're looking a little bit old now. Need a bit of young blood in there, really. Yeah.
Oh, I think
we can make it more cool. I think.
Let's put it in. Okay.
It's
I'm not so sure we can raise it to cool level, but perhaps somebody can. Let's put it in uncool, shall we?
Yeah, I think uncool until we get some of the students, some of the new blood, some of the new ideas in, and some different faces.
And look, we're throwing out the gauntlet. We're throwing out the gauntlet here too. Games for Health. This is important stuff. If you want to go from the uncool category, which is purple, and start entering the aqua blues, give us a call. I'll tell you what to do.
Yeah, and that's probably all the motivation you need, is to move up.
That's it.
That's it. Nothing much else matters.
No. I think we've done the cool world. We've got Zombies Run placed.
Yep.
We've got
very cool.
Yes, we've got Zombies Run. That's an outstanding game. I recommend everyone get it. And Games for Health US has been placed where we think is appropriate. Now, this is Richard's and Brett's Exergaming Cool World. Richard and Brett's. This is our opinion.
You need to read the disclaimer out that's actually on the top of the wiki page there. So the disclaimer, and it's not really that small writing. It is in
It
italics.
kind of is.
Okay, it's quite small writing, but it isn't at the bottom. Yeah,
It's not at the bottom.
Yeah,
There is a disclaimer. There is a disclaimer there if people.
Yeah, and the
please read.
disclaimer said the Exergaming call wall, all capitalised, must mean something, does not necessarily reflect the views of 10 or its board of directors.
No, correct. All right, where are we at, Rich? Let's wrap it up. Thank everyone for listening. This is our first podcast. And again, we'll have on the podcast, we'll have links to 10, to the PB Wiki, and to Facebook. Well, on behalf of myself, I will sign off, Richard, and I will talk to you on podcast episode 2. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.